Hey everybody, this is Rydo, and today we're looking at No More Heroes, the first game in what eventually became a trilogy. Steam says it came out in 2001, and the credits really say that this was written and directed by Suda51, but honestly, I think I want to more emphasize that this is more of a Grasshopper manufacturer game, in the same way that I kind of feel like more people actually worked on it. There's a cutscene here, let's watch this. You definitely see at the beginning here credits giving a lot more people credit than just Suda51.
That's what Bishop, the dude at the video store, said. So I'm at the register, then I realized I got no money. I was seriously broke. Why? Because I met this smoking hot chick last night at the deathmatch bar. Man, she smelled good. So being the gentleman I am, I bought her a drink. Anywho, I decided to get a job. The gig? Assassinate the drifter. So I went where I was supposed to and waited for the guy to show up. And there he was. This cat, well-dressed, cool, couldn't tell if he was the shit or just plain old shit. Yeah, so he's styling, fast, aggressive, and packing heat. Bada bing. Or at least it was supposed to be. Till she showed up. Her name? Sylvia Crystal, an agent with this whatchamacallit association.
Congratulations. You are certified as the 11th best hitman. How about getting rid of the 10 killers above you and aim for the top?
I want to be number one. How's that? Short and simple enough for you? It's gonna be a long, hard road. But who knows? Could kick ass. Could be dangerous. Could totally suck. What do you say, bro? Join me. Let's see how far we can take this. And for you there holding the controller right now, just press the A button. Let the bloodshed begin.
So, very quickly it explains everything and does a few interesting things as far as just telling you the style of this game, really showing the credits at the beginning of the game. This is a PC version, which should have some level of remastering. I guess the question here is there any real benefit in playing the game on mild difficulty? Sweet or mild really doesn't seem to imply much as far as a big difference. It almost certainly implies that you're going to unlock a very difficult setting. Let's just start with mild. And so you just walk out and we're in the game. Now immediately, compared to Killer 7, you actually have control with the left stick and can actually move around. You're playing as Travis Touchdown here, and what is referred to at the time particularly as an otaku, someone who is just obsessed with things like anime. That's why he's got the anime TV shirt, or the anime cartoon shirt on, but also he's really obsessed with a lot of other things.
I know a lot of gamers out there don't have much patience. At least that's what Bishop,
we don't need to watch this again. I would say he is very much more of a Japanese otaku in that he is obsessed with several different genres and habits.
Fuckhead.
There is a ton of blood, a ton of cussing, a ton of violence in this game. It is
help me out here.
definitely trying to be as mature as possible without going into being straight up adults only ratings.
It's game time.
Now he's not just obsessed about anime though. Like, you don't have a laser sword here, and you don't have cool hair and glasses if you're just obsessed with anime. You're also obsessed with Star Wars and lightsabers, and you're definitely obsessed somewhat with fashion, and it is a more well-rounded collection of obsessions than most obsessive otaku would really be, even in Japan. In the West, otaku almost exclusively was used for being obsessed with anime. Maybe a little bit of manga otaku or manhwa otaku of Korean things, but honestly, otaku at this point not even used that much, as it has become so mainstream to be a fan of anime. Plus, even in Japan, the phrase otaku was originally used as a derogative term that was associated with a serial killer, so it took a long time before otaku in Japan was even used. This is an interesting game in that it is very possibly one of maybe 4 or 5 games that significantly only existed because of the Wii and the Wiimote, and would have been a completely different game without the waggle physics of the Wiimote. And you see that certainly in Suda51 and Grasshopper Manufacturer's previous game, Killer 7. In a lot of ways, this game is a remake on the general idea of Killer 7 without having the multiple personalities as an aspect, and not being so much on rails and so much of a short linear experience. This game is still incredibly linear, but it makes a little bit more sense as to why it's linear, and does open up with some mini games. Now inherently you have to charge up your lightsaber, and they wanted you to wiggle the Wiimote, and in the action of wiggling the Wiimote, it does seem like it's a self-gratification method, and so they called the console the Wii, and you're wiggling your Wiimote. It's no surprise that somebody would have had to have called that out as being very phallic, and so this game going the full direction here with cussing in the first cutscene, cussing at the beginning, really like YouTube demonetizing stuff. It's no surprising that they would, with that joke, also have you have to waggle your Wiimote to charge it. And we will have to do that at some point, but noticeably here, we didn't have to do that. It'd be interesting, I guess, if they took that mechanic out for controllers, because I am just playing this on an Xbox controller, and there's no motion things here.
It's over here! You're so lame.
You might want to turn down the audio a little bit here. So you have this beam katana instead of lightsaber, which is what you'd call it. Press the X or Y button to swing the beam katana. Use the beam katana to attack enemies. So yeah, compared to the original Wii version, you actually have to press buttons, and so the game immediately on PC becomes much more of a button masher experience than what was on the Wii. The vast majority of Wii games were worse off by having the Wiimote really only have a Z button and an A button, and then everything else having to be waggled around, particularly non-first party games. There definitely were a few games that made a better experience, or because it was just an easier experience. Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, for instance, is a better experience because it's easier, but it's not much of a challenge, certainly when you can just point the gun reticle. And unlike Killer 7, we are going in a different direction here, in which you aren't just trying to target critical weak spots on people with different types of guns. So that is going to allow, in the individual interactions, for you to be more up close and personal with your attacks, and not just have to kill things. So it's not just a button masher, though. This is where the Wiimote element would once again have come out as something unique, where you actually would have had to swipe upward or left or right, depending on which way it's pointing, or downward, for a death blow. Of course, on a controller, you're going to have to move the right stick in the direction. So this is slightly compromised as far as the setup, and ideally you would want to be able to press Y, X, B, or A instead of moving the right stick, because you'll be pressing X and Y to beat on these enemies quite furiously, and then you'll have to take your hand off to press up with the right stick. Succeed and you'll strike a finishing blow on the enemy. Successful death blow will cause the slots at the bottom of the screen to spin. So now they've added a third crazy gameplay mechanic, and these are crazy gameplay mechanics that didn't become innovative in the sense that they would show up in other games, but you have a full slot machine gambling aspect that will give you attack bonuses, almost bringing it to the level of almost an RPG element. And there is, I guess, some very slight RPG elements here. If the slots line up, you'll be able to unleash various special attacks. You can definitely tell that compared to Killer 7, since many years had passed between Killer 7 and this game, there is a willingness to animate things more and be a little bit more bloody with it. Now, unfortunately, this very well may have been the peak of the sex and violence that publishers would allow in games, or consoles would allow on their games, because, yeah, it really hasn't gone much further than this. The graphics clearly look better than Killer 7, but they still are very stylized, and since this was a Wii game, they at no point really would have had the budget to remaster this for PC and make it like a brand new hyper realistic game. And honestly, it would have hurt if this was too realistic of a game, because then it would have been slightly off-putting. The ridiculous enemies you'll run into and the slightly 3D CGI with kind of an anime color palette style helps you break from reality enough to see that this is very much like a Tarantino film or one of those violent, particularly violent films, than a attempt at real-world depiction. So the gauge on the right of the screen is the beam katana's battery power. It would be nice if they showed that as they were talking. Each attack with the beam katana will drain some of its battery. You'll not be able to use the beam katana once it runs out of batteries. Now recharge your beam katana. Press the left bump to go into charge mode. So you have a lot of pixely things here. It didn't hit it fast enough. So this again, the right stick is replacing what the Wiimote would have done originally. Move the right stick as fast as you can, and so in the actual Wii game you would be shaking the Wiimote up and down to charge it. Here it is very much a different action, and yet the animation definitely shows that the Travis touchdown is really just shaking it up and down, which is funny because they did make a flashlight that had just a really large supercapacitor in it in the real world, and it has a magnet and a coil in it. So you shake it for like 2 minutes up and down furiously, much like that, and it will power the flashlight via supercapacitor for about 10 to 20 minutes, which is an interesting technology, but it never really came on. It became super popular as a battery-less flashlight. Let's continue the tutorial. Lock on and blocking. Now there was only locking on was incredibly rough in Killer 7. Here it's going to be very standard. You press the left trigger to lock on. This allows you to move around the enemy in a circle. If you're attacking while locked on, you will block the attack. On sweet difficulty, you will auto block while standing still. Try blocking the enemy attack. So you do that to block. You probably won't block too much in this game at all. And less noticeably in this game, you'll be fighting enemies that are just repetitive compared to Killer 7. There will be some of them, but honestly, my vague memory of the last time I played this game when it first came out is that after the first couple of enemies, you mostly just do these large boss fights, which are much better boss fights. If anything, you kind of lose the level designs so much that were in Killer 7, and it's not much of a big loss. Like running around the amusement park in Killer 7 is not a huge loss if the amusement park fight was 3-4 times as better. And I think that's what this game does a lot better. So now if you're blocking and hold left trigger and you move the right stick left, right, or down, you'll block with an emergency evades. Enemy attacks cannot hit you during an emergency evade. Use the right stick to perform an emergency invade. So he's not actually going to attack first. Again, way more control, way more of a video game here as far as just control of the characters compared to Killer 7. I will run out of things to compare this game to Killer 7 fairly quickly. But there are definitely things here that are nice to have, even if you're not going to use them that much. And maybe at higher levels of difficulty you do have to use them a lot more. But honestly, Travis Touchdown as a character is not really written as somebody who would dodge and dash that much. He is mostly just a head-on attacker. Weapon clash. If Travis Swords attacks an enemy and the enemy's attack hit each other, a weapon clash will occur. When the weapon clash, and you'll enter death blow mode. Attack with a slash. So this is a weapon clash. Turn the right stick around. Go! Yeah. When a weapon clash, and you'll enter death blow mode. Move the right stick in the direction shown on the arrow. Notice you're getting money for killing all those people too. There's a lot of extra things you can buy and extra reasons to play this game a little bit more if you want to try to 100% it. But yeah, if anything, it would have potentially been nice if there was an alternate universe of this game that was a little less crazy with its user interface and GUI, but that would have also made the game not stand out as much. The game can stand out certainly by its story alone, but I wouldn't be surprised if nearly a third of people who played No More Heroes actually didn't like this story, because it is still Suda51 craziness and very anime-esque, and so I don't know if you would have served the audience better with a more generic controls type game. Down attack. Y will appear when close to a downed enemy. Press Y or X to perform a down attack. Perform a down attack on the enemy. Alright. Again, this is just not something I feel like happens that much in the game. Very flashy, very colorful, very much high energy as far as this game. There is most definitely not any real deep thoughts of a governmental conspiracy happening like there was in Killer 7 for no reason. They excised all of that nonsense. There is, I suppose, a slight question and conspiracy as to why you'd be ranked number 11 Hitman and then you would fight the other Hitman to be ranked number 1. Wouldn't it make a lot more sense to keep Hitmen alive and have them kill their targets instead of killing each other. And wouldn't it be better as an organization to have the rankings of Hitman be based on the number of targets that they kill and get paid for? It's weird that there would just be a tournament that you kill to get higher rank. The beam katana can be switched between high and low attacks. Use high attacks to hit enemies guarding low. Press Y to perform a high slash attack using high slashes. I have to kind of be careful to be certain as far as which button setup. I'm trying to hit pause to adjust the audio, by the way, and it's not working. So you do have to switch between high and low attacks, which on the Wii would have been swinging low and swinging high. They really had to just squeeze in the controls into regular games, but they did that for like the Xbox 360 and the PS3, so they'd already done the work by the time they released the PC version. In fact, this is one of these examples of Japanese games just now, very recently, in I'd say 2020, 2021 time. That's when PC games started to show up from Japanese companies, PC ports from very old games. Right about the time that PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5 stopped being super popular in Japan, and they're really only being the Nintendo Switch as the major console in Japan. Travis can adopt a low slashing stance. PS4 and 5 are still very popular in Japan. They're just not anywhere as big as PS1, PS2, or PS3. Moving on. Travis can adopt a low slashing stance, swing the katana with the X button to perform the low slash. Yeah, I've been playing with the Xbox controller, the Nintendo, via an adapter on the Nintendo Switch, so my fingers are having to remember which X button means X. In this case, X does mean X, whereas when you use an adapter for the Nintendo Wired Pro controller equivalent, X means Y and A means B and vice versa. Some enemies will guard Travis Beam's katana attacks, use low attacks on enemies using high guards. So you can see they have it. They have their weapons up high. What a pain! What's funny is that there's kind of something fairly unique about each of the enemies in this game as far as the 10 assassins, and I'm not sure that there's a significantly large number of them that just try to guard high or guard low. There might be a little bit of that, and I'll keep an eye out for that, but a lot of them, it is just that they have a lot of health, from what I vaguely recall. I guess we'll see when we get there. It's a slow tutorial. Beat attacks, press B or A to perform a B attack, so now we're finally including B or A. Beat attacks will break an enemy's guard. Beat attacks also have high and low versions. A high beat attack is performed with B. A low beat attack is performed with A. Hitting an enemy guarding high with a high beat attack will stun them. So this, makes a lot of sense as far as the layout of the buttons on an Xbox controller. In the same way, hitting the enemy guarding low with a low beat attack will stun them. Hitting guard enemy with a beat attack to stun them. So you do that, and that stuns them. The enemy is now stunned. The stunned enemy is totally defenseless. You can all follow that up with a beam katana bat. Wipe out the remaining enemies. And what's funny there is that I didn't hit the right stick immediately after it popped up that prompt. I hit the Y button once and it didn't penalize me for that, so it's a fairly generous game. Honestly, I'm not sure you really need this many tutorials right at the beginning of the game. You could probably, for most players, just force them to skip the tutorial, or make a joke of it where you say, yes, I'd like the tutorial, and Travis Touchdown just says, nah, forget that, let's just play. These are things that you're going to be told very much at the beginning of this tutorial and potentially forget in the first couple of hours. Now, Travis Touchdown and Suda51, I suspect also, is also a wrestling otaku obsessed with wrestling, whether it's Japanese fake wrestling or American Western fake wrestling, those kinds of wrestling, not the amateur wrestling that is actually real wrestling. And so he's going to have these throws that are very much just wrestling moves. First stun enemy, so you do that. Once an enemy is stunned, you can press B or A to grab them. Grab the enemy. And when you do that, you have yet another interface here. Now, what's the benefit of doing the throw? On small enemies, I don't know if there really is any benefit. Maybe you'll get a better reward. On larger enemies, it might be a massive amount of damage. It really does feel like it would be a finisher move because of the amount of animation and just interaction here. A lot of this in most games would have been completely automated, and you would have just hit B and then hit B again, and then it would have automatically done the throw. If anything, they are trying to make you actually feel like you're playing the game, whereas a lot of modern games, it's 90% just automation and you're just button mashing through it, and you're slightly interacting with what is a movie. Two arrows will be displayed on the screen like this. The right arrow is the direction of the right stick, the left arrow is the direction of the left stick. That makes sense. Move simultaneously in the direction displayed. Throw an enemy. But even in that case, when you did that throw, it didn't kill him, whereas a few more hits with the beam katana would have killed him. And it's not like the beam katana loses energy so often that a throw might be a nice balancing move with the beam of katana attacks to, say, stun an enemy so you can charge up in the middle of battle. You will have to do that occasionally.
Hey, over here! You're so lame.
Charged beam attack. Hold down the A button to charge your attack. When you have charged your attack to the max, you'll unleash a charged beam attack. If a charged beam attack hits the enemy, you'll automatically be stunned. Attack an enemy with a charged beam attack. What? See, I'm not doing the attack that I'm supposed to be doing here. I'm supposed to be holding down A, and it doesn't seem like it's doing anything.
What a pain!
Alright, well, finally we get to a pause menu. Let's see if we can turn down the audio a little bit here. Let's just come down a little bit. While we're at it, we'll turn on the subtitles. This is quite the amount of information just to throw at you on a menu, too. And yes, there is a whole map element noticeably here. Doesn't seem like, can you save with data? Nope. Let's see. See, unless this is supposed to be the charge beam attack, just holding A. Yeah. I'm just gonna hold each button and see if that does anything. Hmm. Yeah, it just doesn't feel like that worked at all. I guess maybe there was something already there, or maybe my beam needed to be fully charged, which I guess maybe was part of the instruction there. Charge slash. Hold down wire X and you'll build up power with the beam katana. Again, it says that release wire X at the right time to perform a charge slash. The upper charge slashes can be unleashed without letting go of the button. The longer you build up power, the stronger it will be. The attack must also hit multiple enemies at once, making it super useful. I don't think it said must, can. There are two types of charge attacks, high or low. Charge high is profiled with Y, X. Cannot move while charging your attack.
Hey, he's over here!
Damn you!
Yeah.
Damn you!
Yeah, all of a sudden that worked. That was just totally not working before. And let's see. That removed our charging, so here's the example of where the game is gonna, like, you're gonna have to charge back up. And there I got 3 in a row. Even though we've spent nearly 30 minutes in this tutorial room, it's still, like, visually is just like way better than any room in Killer 7. Now you basically always want to get that final blow. Like for the time, the visuals here definitely are way better as far as the 3D models going. Just being able to walk around the room. It's ridiculous that being able to walk around an empty room and really do nothing other than feel like you actually have control of the character is so impactful in video games, but it really is that impactful. Whereas in Killer 7 you would just be holding the A button and you would just be on rails and you would go up one of these 2 stairs and not have an option. You can see the camera here is particularly poorly designed to go up and down stairs. It's very herky-jerky. But we can move the camera around with the right stick. There probably is some level of secret stuff around here. You also have the element in that this lets you take a moment to recharge your attacks. You can also see that the high-low stance in this game is designed mostly for the Wiimote to tell you whether you're on a high-low stance. And the camera resetting is weird. So you hit the boxes to get through them. You don't do anything with the doors. Very much, Grasshopper manufacturer is still somewhat limited in their resources. I can't help but feel like because this is a higher resolution that the camera smoothness could be adjusted somewhat. As far as, yeah, there's no sensitivity on the camera movement, but there definitely is enough room for that. At 98% electricity, 100% health. You just magically get locked in. So, why do you want the bonuses? Because if you get a matching, you'll get more gold also. A more modern version of this game would definitely have destructible environments. We can see we're getting some slight variety in the characters, in that there are bald ones and ones with hair. And that gives us +1 health. Does that mean anything really in this case, or is that just a health refill? Like Tiger Rug. And then multiple beds and a pool. You get a barrier being the only thing that was stopping you, and that gets moved out of the way. In a lot of ways it does definitely feel a lot more like Killer 7. It's funny how the camera seems to like to get under you when that's not a very helpful camera angle. Because you have control of your own speed with the left stick compared to Killer 7, you have a feeling that you can run through these levels a lot faster. It's probably not really worth it to recharge your weapon as often as you might think also in this game. Let's see. Yes. Trading card number 1. So question I guess would be, as far as trading cards, can you even see trading cards? Nope, I don't think you can see them through the menu. I do think you can see them eventually. Yes. Battery +1 is probably just refilling your battery. And we'll want to come back and get that later.
He's over here! Just look at him! You're a joke!
Mostly, what this breaks down to is if you hear clinking, you should switch up what button you're pressing, but that's about it. I think I'm in Tiger mode, which they didn't even talk about in the tutorial. You can see I'm taking a kind of large amount of damage here. No, this is definitely Tiger mode. So we are in this like energy wave attack now. And you can see the tiger is racing towards a goal. So playing on mild might be asking a lot in this case. Like, and there aren't so many RPG elements in this game that I think you double or triple your health. And you've not really been given a good reason as to why you're getting gold so far. Like, you really just have to go with it, go with the flow. It's kind of ridiculous that you're going all around. We can look at a map here and see that it's not really the best of maps. It's like, it's not telling you where to go or anything like that. They're introducing a new thought in that enemies will show up in hallways and around corners. Which makes this much more of a kind of randomized feeling game compared to Killer 7, where every single heavenly smile in the entirety of the game was in very specific spawn points. And these characters have spawn points too, but they also have a level of AI to them that makes them move around, and they're spawning in and around corners so that you don't see the spawn points as much. Yeah, and you would think that this would be more memorable fighting like these types of enemies, but it really isn't. They are really just a warm-up, which is a certain level. Your warm-up. Notice how it's spun there? It just doesn't matter where you go. Like I'm in a hypercharged mode. That being said, I don't think that hypercharge mode works when you get to the actual final boss. You'd have to unlock it during the boss, and a lot of the slot machine stuff actually is unlikely to be triggered when you're doing a boss fight, so it is almost like a completely different game. Alright. I do want to get through one boss fight here, so...
You're a joke.
777, I assume, is going to give me more gold. We kind of know that blue means it's going to refill something. Generally speaking, I think you want the left and right attacks way more often than you want the other attacks. Here you can also see there's a scantily clad lingerie lady on the photo, and there's the guy that we're going to be fighting in a second. The general idea that he's a little sleazy. Now if you wanted all the trading cards, and some of them are in levels, you probably aren't going to have a lot of opportunity to regain that. There's a lot of pictures on the wall. They're just like generic pictures, and then a lot of the same picture. So there does feel like there is a possibility in this case that
I'll miss you.
you would miss one trading card and then you'd never be able to collect it again. Or maybe have to collect it using a walkthrough guide. This is not good.
What a die! Cranberry chocolate sundae. The best you got.
And so now we have a taunt mode that seems to be
He's over here.
like you walk towards them and just press a button prompt, which it would have made a lot of sense for the game to have explained all of that. You're going to be in a very weird position here now that our health is about half of what it should be. There's just more people coming, and you can hear them. You can see this guy has a actual laser sword, so it's not like you're going to get that exclusivity in which you have a more powerful weapon. So that's like an example of an actually strong enemy for the first time. Trading card number 4. I did not recall anybody having a gun. I don't know how you would specifically block. I guess lock on to block people. And if anything, what I think the game is trying to teach me in this mode is that locking on is the only way to deal with distance shooters, and it does seem to automatically just eliminate the usefulness of guns in this game at all. Which, yeah, you can definitely see how this is an attempt at making a different type of game compared to Killer 7, where Killer 7 was all about guns and there were no swords. You have a very pretty environment here that almost certainly most players would have just wandered through without even taking a look to it. For as old as this game is. Of course, there could be ray tracing, there could be better 3D modeling of all these graphics. I don't know how much of a benefit you would really get from any of that, but it would be something. So this feels like, at this point, almost in a church instead of a big mansion. And you have this walk and talk.
Hey Travis, your ranked fight begins just up ahead. Win, and you will be 10th. Lose, and hell awaits. Are you up to this? Need a bathroom break? Whatever you need to do, do it now. Your opponent, some call him the Holy Sword. He is good, but I know you can take him.
One of the things...
You are the man. I am the tiger. He only looks tough because his mother was an ugly bitch. Take it to the red zone. Assassin's Way at full throttle. Unleash your power.
I don't know if she ever stops talking. Here.
Bring me death metal set. Enter when you are prepared to fight. I believe in you and your force. Now, off to the Garden of Madness.
So if you walk too fast, I believe that cuts off the phone call there. That being said, obviously the phone call stopped being that relevant. And you just aren't going to have that much that you need to say when your weapon is not around.
Sweet.
You punch with your fists.
Yes.
You almost never actually use that. There's a wrestling mask here.
Yes.
Let's save first. Now, the save mechanic here is funny in that you save by going to a toilet and sitting on the toilet, and the toilet paper covers up his groin. So this is like the only save spot. So the 51 minutes or so I've put into this game so far, 47 minutes, I guess I talked for 10 minutes at the beginning here, or 4 minutes, whatever. Like, that could be a lot of progress lost. And that didn't do anything for you as far as refilling your health. Although it does seem like you could easily cheat that and just save again and see if it refills those boxes. Now, we had the masked wrestler character that was in Killer 7, and definitely we're seeing masked Mexican wrestling referenced again in this game. There was also a character in Killer 7 named Travis, so it's like they reused the name. What's interesting here is you can see on this piece of paper that there is some kind of faded element to it that you can see through, and I wonder on the Wii version if you really would have been able to see that faded element, or if maybe you could have turned the paper over. It seems to say ADA Grand Circus or something like that. Path of Pro Wrestling that you have long forgotten. So at some point, I guess the idea is Travis was a pro wrestler. If even a fragment of the spirit of the wrestler remains in your blood, remember your first suplex that your master taught you. Yes, that's right. The darkness piercing front neck chancery drop. MS. So now we have remembered an old professional wrestling move, which is cool, I suppose. Not limited to the number of saves, so we can save again. Also, we could certainly have maybe not saved and just canceled to see if that would respawn the boxes again. It almost certainly is not going to save me, though, if I have to get my health and battery back to the max before each of the major 10 fights. And 10 certainly sounds like a small number of fights, but it really isn't. It doesn't make this game super long. With just the fights, this could easily have been a 5-10 hour game. With the side missions, it does become probably too long and gets closer to 60 hours, and if you really go crazy with it, and I hope it's not really 60. I'm saying 60, but I really hope it's closer to 20. Yeah, but it would be very annoying to end this episode at this point, so let's show this fight off. Now, I definitely remember that these fights were very intense and difficult on the Wii, with the controller playing on mild difficulty. I wouldn't be surprised
lives of
if
men.
this is actually more difficult.
When you have the strength to take life for yourself, that is true wealth. I am free of desire. So long as I have this scenery to look upon, I need nothing more. Please leave me be.
You're the one leaving. In a body bag.
I'll only say this once more. Leave here now.
Huh. Me leave? You obviously don't know me.
You don't get it, do you?
Hey, you know what paradise is, right?
Paradise.
This is paradise. The place where dreams are fulfilled. Well, you've had your dream, old man. Time to wake up.
This is no paradise.
All right, then what is it?
A place to die.
Huh. I'm glad you and I are on the same page here.
So
So naive.
the voice
You have
acting
no
here is a little
idea,
rough.
do you? What a
but
pity. You make an old man cry.
He looks like a Yakuza
Arrogant, crude
Japanese
little
attack
shits like you come
member,
around from time to time.
but he sounds like he's a
Listen
weird
well, young one.
Irish
The wall is high,
assassin.
higher than you will ever know.
Music playing in the background.
Ultimate
Really should have stopped.
sacrifice is sublime. Now draw.
You can take that to your grave.
You can see Travis Touchdown is just full of bravado. Alright, we're gonna have to really use dodging a lot more than I thought you did. So, yeah.
Loyal servants at my beck and call. On the weekends, tan beans.
Get some help there. So, he's talking while the sound effects are happening.
It's the perfect life. I thirst for something.
You probably do want to stun,
Young rookies like me.
and getting the battery at that point was probably a mistake.
I guess you can call this a comedy. I realize there's really nothing here. Should have been a little more careful before I jumped in. Gotta find There's this sense of mood running down my spine like it's
There we go.
suck the life out of me.
I'm not hitting the A and B buttons enough. And now we have like clones happening. Like nothing I'm doing is working. I'm about to win, and my health is not really going down as much as I thought. But you can see how this is crazy. I probably shouldn't be locking in. This guy's just wrecking me. And see, this would be the time to have to run away to recharge my weapon. Otherwise I can't do anything. Like, it's counting the number of hits I've done. But really, it's just the wrestling moves that are doing the massive amount of damage here. You're doing a little bit of damage with the slashing and hacking, but and I imagine this is how we win, is with a finishing blow. And if anything, I kind of feel like this is probably the most straightforward attack of all 10 of them.
The name Holy Sword is now yours.
You cut off his
You're
arms.
joking, right? I don't care about titles or power. I just want to be number one.
Then master the ways of the assassin.
Here's your ticket to paradise, old man.
What's funny, in the Japanese version of this, almost certainly the blood would have been blacked out. This is just too gory, really, for the Japanese version. This almost certainly is one of those games that is more censored in its original country than in the Western world. Yep, and you get a whole score here, which is quite a lot of information, but you can see I definitely didn't do particularly well. I took way too long to beat the level, which maybe some of that is the tutorial. If I'd skipped through the tutorial, I could have probably gotten to rank C, but you would very much have to just run through the entire level. And I imagine there probably is a new game plus element to this that would let you upgrade your sword and let you do twice as much damage, 3 times as much damage. As far as the number of enemies I killed 80. That's quite a lot. It definitely doesn't feel like you killed 80. Like I said before, it's very, very easy to forget killing all the little enemies up to the final boss, because the final boss is just so intensive and way more interesting than the wind up to the final boss that it just leaves my mind completely. As far as damage taking, I took 290 points of damage, which gives me rank C, which gives me another 1,000, I guess, LB, whatever, lucky bucks, or whatever that stands for. And then obviously there's some other element here that I would suspect might be take no damage at all in the boss fight, or perhaps complete a certain number of wrestling moves. Getting 7-7 once, though, gives me a massive 10,000 lucky bucks. So every other thing you did in this game was in this level is overshot by the single 777, which that's the reason why you play the slot machines there. Alright. And so full health there, and an increase in health. And is there anywhere else we can go and look? No, we can like visually see there's a boat far off in the distance, which I wouldn't be surprised if that boat model is never used again. And for what little story there is, this is the story you get, is this lady meeting you up on the bar, probably setting you up for failure, trying to get you to assassinate all the other people. Now, considering how adult this game is, you would assume that you might be able to move the camera closer to this lady and get your own custom ogling view of her. You can see him checking his zipper there as an idle animation. But there is seemingly a camera programming factor here where it zooms to the top half of her, so no upskirt shots, which I'm a little surprised on that. It doesn't kind of matter. She still definitely is lewdly drawn
Nice kill, Travis.
as
I
this
didn't think you
French
had it in
femme
you.
fatale
It was rather
with her
exciting.
blouse totally open and bra showing.
Congratulations. You are now ranked 10th.
10th, huh? What? Do I get anything?
The
How about some cash? That should help you pay the bills.
I'm not feeling the sense of accomplishment that I should here. So I just gotta do this a few more times.
the banner art for this game has Travis Touchdown
And you
literally
keep your
groping
promise?
this
There
lady.
is nothing the association cannot do.
And if I refuse?
As the 10th ranked assassin, you are now a target for those who want to replace you. Anytime,
So she's
anywhere.
just
Number
taking
11 could be
pictures.
right around the corner.
And
Ready to put a
these
knife.
two German-looking characters are
So what you're telling me is that I gotta continue
destroying the evidence, I
There's
guess.
no way out of this. You set me up, bitch.
Quit your bitching and get with the program. There's only one road out of here. No turning back.
Okay, how about this? If I become number 1, will you do it with me?
Maybe. Maybe not.
Come on, just once.
Like pathetically begging to sleep with her. So you don't even get to know the names of the other people, which I guess that'd be a slight spoiler, but not much. And so now you are rank 10 of what is probably way more than 10 assassins. They kind of set themselves up badly in this first game, assuming that they'd never get a sequel, which would have been a good assumption, by starting with just 10 characters. Because then they really have to go in different directions with No More Heroes 2 and No More Heroes 3. There is also a spin-off No More Heroes game that's not really worth mentioning, so I won't choose to mention that. This is one of those games where pressing A multiple times just has you save and overwrite to save and save and overwrite to save.
Am I ready? Anytime. Gotcha.
That time you don't hear the other side of the phone, even though you did before. There's different outfits you can buy in this game, different weapons. Here's the... He's saying Moe. Moe is an anime style that typically means they are slightly shorter looking, slightly less human looking, more childlike in their features than the kawaii art style that kind of came before that, where the anime characters still looked short and childlike, but not as much. Like, anime has never really been drawn in such a way that the characters looked realistic. Even Travis's appearance here is not really an anime style. It wouldn't be the kawaii or moe art style for sure. At the time, moe probably meant something slightly different as what it would mean now. The art style has evolved a little bit more, and it was super popular. It's, I think, slightly starting to become a little less popular these days. But yeah, there is also a chibi art style in which at that point the characters are just a big head for the most part and don't look human at all. Yeah, so we'll get sunglasses that we can change. We'll get jackets that we can change. This is a made up anime show, by the way. It's like half Sailor Moon and half 3-girl superhero team. See, we could not wear a shirt. We also have No More Heroes number 11 on. Ninja, Killer, and Headspin. Just a bunch of fake outfits. They probably wasted a little bit of their time making these kinds of elements, but at the very least, this is a game that came out before microtransactions or DLC happened. Almost certainly, if this game had come out in its in modern times, these outfits would be through loot boxes or something. We'll get different jeans and different belts. I don't think any of these actually affect any of your effects. It's interesting, you also have like a Virgin Mary on the left there, which does kind of imply to me that Travis may very well be Mexican in this weird one. We have Bloody Barry as our only beam katana. You can also see in that drawer there's what one would assume is just a like Playboy type penthouse magazine, or 2 or 3 of them. I can't quite make out what the other things are. They could be coins, they could be condoms, who knows. It's hard to see. He does have on his bed a Dakimatra, which is a like full-length body pillow with what looks like could be an anime character on that. It is kind of weird though that you would be both into anime in a sexual way and realistic live action like nude photos of real people in the same way. Usually those characters or perverts are depicted as being obsessed with only one of the two. You're in this fake city called Santa Destroya, and this just straight up brings up a map, and there is a Suplex Plaza, Atomic Drop World, a Santa Destroya High School, Rolling Cradle Highway Bus Stop, Rounding Body Press Station, Santa Destroya Junction, Destroy Stadium. You have this weird flag that means nothing. Body Slam Beach and Iron Claw Point. And then nothing up here. Some of this definitely is interesting little extra flavor text at the bottom. You're at the No More Heroes Motel, which I guess the general idea is that there are no more heroes in this game, just assassins. Some of these levels, these points of interest are definitely where you eventually end up fighting people, and some of them are mini games. It might be through the map that you could go back and redo a battle.
There are no messages.
Yeah.
There are no messages.
There's probably an achievement around all of that. So you'd go to the toilet to save or not save. We have already seen that. This episode is going to go kind of long, but a lot of the future episodes are going to be less long. In Killer 7 the TV, was used as a character selecting thing here, this is just going to be a replay of cutscenes, so this is just that introductory cutscene. You have this tiny little refrigerator, which would be even a little too much for a Japanese apartment, but clearly this guy is not Japanese. He seems to be more like he's Mexican in a world that is full of a lot of mixed culture references, which is an interesting idea. It certainly is Suda51's mind in a blender, depicted in a video game. On the right there you can see a lot of anime figurines of anime girls. I don't think we quite get the opportunity to see that. In the back you see some Mexican wrestling masks, and below that I can't tell what that is, whether that's supposed to be pictures of like action figures compared to stationary display figures on the right, or something. You'd think it would be more Mexican related. There's obviously a music player on the bookshelf, and then things on the bookshelf in the back. You see posters, you see VHS tapes here, so that not even to the point of DVDs. There's a giant Gundam statue in the corner. The little kitten that's walking by is Jean. So here you can
You hungry?
feed the cat by pressing to the right on the left stick.
There.
You can pet the cat with pressing on the right stick some more, then pressing left on the right stick. Stop that. Ideally, a more modern version of this game would let you zoom in and move the controller around and look at some of these 3D models, because there's obviously some polish put into these 3D models and the figures and the masks and the walls, and the fact that you are just trapped into very specific camera angles seems like a slight shame. So the trading cards may be 100% around wrestlers, which very possibly will mean they aren't very interesting trading cards to me. Yeah. There isn't a ton of them, only 50, but I would have wanted something that was visually more interesting than just that. And like, yeah, to see this wall, the only way you can see this wall is as you're transitioning to and from this, or just looking in the background. But yeah, he has a whole wall of Moe, made up Moe anime characters. None of it seems to be actually based on something that actually existed, which, yeah, that would make sense, certainly. Alright. And so we've kind of gone full circle. We started the game here, and this map too is still not super useful. I don't even know what a Speltiger is. Let's see. Take a side job, earn extra cash. The game really has to tell us what the reason for cash is so far, and it really hasn't done that. yeah, I guess there's not really a lot more that you can do or say here. Yeah. So we'll just leave it at that. Yeah, I have no idea what the Logic of ball is. It sounds like a Pokeball type thing, but that really wouldn't make any sense. What's funny is this game may not have as much appeal to me as it originally did. I am definitely older and not as close to being an edgelord teenager that I was when I first played this game. And certainly I have seen in the game industry there are definitely more adult games that you can find that aren't talked about really or sold on consoles compared to what would have been available back when this game came out. So while this game probably would have been described as somewhat subversive when it first came out, it's been overshadowed by just a more open marketplace in which you can totally have games that just have full nudity and as much violence and blood and guts in it as you want. And honestly, the cartoony violence in this game is really nothing compared to some of the violence in horror games and other games that have come out in the decades since. So the danger certainly in this game is to get through it fairly quickly before you start to run out of momentum, because you definitely could create a situation here where you don't get through it, or you start doing a bunch of side missions to unlock a bunch of items that aren't really necessary, and you grind yourself into a bad situation where you're not really having fun with the game and you just don't get to the end of the game. Particularly now, since there is a No More Heroes 2 and a No More Heroes 3, and I wouldn't bother playing the side game, but you have two other games to look forward to, and anytime you have that situation where there's been multiple sequels, it makes a lot of sense to have more of a laid-back experience. So much so that I could see myself trying to change the difficulty level in this game, which doesn't seem like you can actually do, but so we may have a bit of struggle. The fights are supposed to be struggles though, and I definitely will obviously say this is better than Killer 7, but in a lot of ways I think Killer 7 is remembered better just because it was more unique during its time. Which, yeah, if Pseudo51 or Grasshopper Manufacturer tried to make a new subversive game in modern times in 2023, I don't know if they could really catch anybody's attention doing that. It would have to be so offensive and so bloody and so extreme and so sexually charged that it would just be talked about on mainstream news channels like Fox News or CNN and cause controversy. And I don't think you can even really do that with video games in 2023, because there's just so much else that people are already upset about and causing controversy around. So yeah, this is definitely a game that I think will be more and more a sign of its time and will be increasingly less impactful because of that. In the same way that something like Rocky Horror Picture Show, when it first came out, was considered super subversive, but now amongst its niche fandom it's considered fairly mainstream, and it definitely wouldn't cause a controversy in any real manner. Anyways, I don't want to go any further because we already went way too long in this episode. That's going to be it for this episode. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos, because that helps me with YouTube. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and get me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.